You start with a story first instead of just bunching artifacts and then trying to tie it in together, which is a typical approach, and it's something we're inclined to do because it's easier. But easier doesn't mean right. You sometimes have to do the hard work so that it's simpler for the hiring manager to understand that you are the right candidate. Hey, what is up? It's another Tuesday and another Design Tool Tuesday. And I know I haven't been consistent with those, but today I have something cool to share with you and something super relevant for juniors and seniors and every person in UX design and research. It's a checklist for UX portfolios. It's by Ian Fenn, who's an author of the Lobster book, of the UX portfolio book, which has been invaluable in my own development. And all the things which he put in that checklist, which I'm going to showcase in a second, is what I'm using already. And I kind of have, I guess, different ways to describe the same things, but the same principles do apply. Have you identified the reviewers of your portfolio and their needs in terms of candidate experience? I have a video on this as well, on the users of your portfolios, like recruiters, the hiring managers like myself, people who would review your portfolio. Have you considered what their day-to-day look like? Have you UX'd that part? Because a lot of people right now showcase their portfolio work, and it's obviously to impress their design peers, but not so much to get the job or to convince the potential hiring team that you're a right candidate. Have you created a selection of realistic projects that demonstrate comparable work experience? Again, it ties in from that first point, and it's really, have you tailored it? Is it relevant to a potential employer, to their industry, to their project, everything in between? Because if you, let's say, apply for, I don't know, let's take an example of healthcare mobile apps, you know that for sure, and you're showcasing them something like a sports nutrition's website, might not resonate that much. Do you have some mobile apps experiences you designed from before? Can you actually include that so it resonates with them? Maybe you have some healthcare, so you can kind of tie in the gaps and they can see, okay, you can do this for us as well, maybe, and there is some potential. Respected any non-disclosure agreement and privacy laws. Again, NDAs, super important. There's a lot of ways to skin this. You need to know exactly what you're signed for how long, in what capacity is it gonna, if your work is ever gonna be public, is there a way to portray it so it doesn't infringe it? Something you should look into. And I know it takes time and you might be a bit lazy, but just do that ultimately. Written the introduction to your portfolio so that it clearly articulates your value. Written your biography to convey what you can do for a reviewer, relevant experience, and your pleasant working nature. Because a lot of portfolios kind of hint at it, or it's something too vague where, you know, people are saying, oh, I'm a problem solver, or I love solving problems and helping people live their lives, and it's too vague, it's too fluffy. What these 2 points are basically stating: can you be specific in the tangible outcomes? Can you make it so it's very clear what the value is to bring you on board? Maybe you've been helping shape design teams, or maybe you established design teams and now you want to do more of that. Clearly state that. For example, myself, that's what I would add. Let's say I'm super passionate about design operations and optimizations, about growing the people in the teams and helping them to personally develop. Bam, I would just state that. Maybe I would even give examples of what it could be. If you're a junior, at least state exactly what sort of value you could add to, let's say, a fresh team. Maybe you have specific stakeholder management skills and you're coming from other areas, showcase that. It's as simple as that, you know, just list it out. And then reflecting on a case study titles. Have you described it good enough? A lot of case studies are saying like mobile app for XYZ. Mobile app is just a tool. It's not experience. Have you thought of how to showcase what experience did you deliver? Maybe you need to rephrase it, and then check that each case study is free of misspelling, typos, and poor grammar. That also is important. A lot of people are picky. Myself, I notice it immediately. And the last one is ensuring that your portfolio is easy to navigate with no unnecessary interactions. It's UXing the UX portfolio again. And as a hiring manager, I'm immediately gonna pick up and gonna be like, well, if you cannot UX your portfolio, if you cannot solve your own problems of your website, how could I trust you that you're gonna solve anyone else's problems? A lot of UX designers and product and UI designers now, you know, we have that mess of bleeding professions and specialties. A lot of people think that UX is just visual layer. So they try to cram up these cursor animations and these graphics and motion graphics and floating videos and things of that nature. It just makes your head explode, and it immediately signifies that for specifically UX role, it's not the right candidate. candidate. Even if a portfolio might look funky and flashy and spot on in terms of trends, strip it down as much as you can. It's about your work. It's about your case studies. And on that note, we're going to segue to the next part, which is basically for each case study, summarize your overall design process, give an essential details, project duration, all the bits which we always cover, the basics. Put the client into context, who they are, the business outcome they needed. This is one of those things which designers totally overlook. And I don't know if it's because of boot camps or maybe we are not clear as seniors, all the designers in the industry. Every project starts with a business problems, with a business goals. It's usually cost reduction, it's usually revenue increase, it's customer retention, and every other symptom which stems from it. State that clearly, state some sort of quant, state anecdotes and things of that nature. Why did they engage you in that project? Why did they get you on board? What's there right now? Why do we need to improve the UX? Give that context. And that, if you don't include in each case study, is immediately like a blind spot, because it shows that you're just fantasizing about better UX. You just want to apply UX to things which might not be actual, real business problems. Communicated your role and how you collaborated with others, really important. Explained vital decisions and the thinking behind them. So each deliverable, each step, a lot of people just embed wireframes, information architecture, mockups, user tests, like make it almost like a scrollable linear progression of different deliverables. It doesn't have any resonance with the hiring team, because we are like, okay, this is just artifacts, this is just deliverable. If you remember in a bunch of my reviews on these videos, I was like, why did you choose to make a persona sheet for this customer segment? Why did you choose just that person but not the other few you actually outlined? Just being very clear and articulating the decisions for each of key milestones you portray in your case study. And the next point is almost doubles down on the same thing, is about the research. Why do you use certain activities and when to use them? Again, streamlining it, connecting the gaps so there is no jumps, there is no second guessing, because that second guessing might not bite you immediately if your case is good enough, but in the interview I'm gonna be definitely asking, why didn't you include that? How did the previous step inform the next step, and so forth. Explain the business impact of a project, next steps, and your key learning. One big inflammation point here as well, because a lot of people key learnings on their own personal perspective, but never almost estimate or project at least of what the next steps would be for that project or that solution. What were the outcomes of the actual research? How does that answer your hypotheses or your problems the business have? Projected linkage between that UX improvement and the business outcome. Can you do that? If you do that, when you have a solid story, structured the content so that it is quick to scan with ample headings. Actual content design in the UX. UX in your portfolio is super important. Use relevant photographs, cutaway artifacts, and other visuals in preference to wordy blocks of text. Pictures do tell the story of 1,000 words. What I would add to this point, maybe branching out further, is that you use your artifacts to enrich the story. I always recommend designers write it out almost like an elevator pitch of that story of a case study. Enrich it a little bit with further explanation and context in text, then cut down and make it as succinct as possible, and then for things which they need to illustrate, add those artifacts or add it in stages. You start with a story first instead of just bunching artifacts and then trying to tie it in together, which is a typical approach, and it's something we're inclined to do because it's easier. But easier doesn't mean right. You sometimes have to do the hard work so that it's simpler for the hiring manager to understand that you are the right candidate. And this checklist is amazing, actually what you can implement immediately. And I would advise, if you have a portfolio, immediately go through these points and see if it sticks, or just schedule a portfolio review with Ian, because he's open to it on that uxportfolio.design site. If you like this video, if this tool is useful, give a like, subscribe to this channel, leave a comment down below what you think about it. And on that note, I'll see you next time.